are joined now on the phone by Republican presidential candidate Dr. Ben Carson. Good morning, Dr. Carson.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for calling in. Let's talk about the poll numbers. There are some new poll numbers that I'm sure are making you smile this morning. First, there's this Gallup poll that was out yesterday, and it shows that you are the most likable candidate in the race. Everyone likes you. You are not just popular with Republicans, you're popular with all sorts of Americans. You have the highest favorability rating of any candidate, higher than Donald Trump, you're higher than Hillary Clinton, you're higher than Bernie Sanders. We're just showing the top four there. You're higher than Fiorina, Rubio, Sanders. You have a 21% net favorability rating there. That has to make you feel good. How do you explain why you are resonating so much with voters across the gamut?
I suspect it's because I'm not a politician, and people don't like politicians. You know, they like people who are straightforward and people who are like them. And, you know, that's the way I'm going to continue to be. I'm never going to be a politician. And, you know, we have such serious issues to deal with in this country right now. And, you know, I'm going to continue to focus on those serious issues and not get caught up in the political, you know, garbage that is distracting. Because, you know, right now I think many people recognize that we're on the precipice of disaster. And we just can't continue with the same stuff, you know, be a Democrat or Republican.
And when you say that we're on the precipice of disaster, what do you think is the biggest looming disaster?
There are several, but one of the things that very seldom gets talked about is our financial foundation, which is very precarious right now. Do you hear anybody talking about the fiscal gap? You don't hear any of the traditional politicians talking about that, probably because they want to get reelected. But, you know, the people have to understand what's going on in our country in order to make wise decisions. This would be a great thing, for instance, for CNN to start talking about if you really want to be of service to the people.
Well, look, CNN talks about the news every day.
But not about the fiscal gap.
We talk plenty about the fiscal gap and about the economy. But I know what you're referring to, Dr. Carson, and so let's just get it out of the way. I mean, let's talk about this investigation into your childhood and your past, and it's something that many, many people are interested in because you have a fascinating childhood story. You grew up poor in Detroit, and you've written about it in your autobiography called Gifted Hands, and in particular, you talk about how you overcame what you called your pathological anger, which you describe as a disease, and that's interesting to hear from your medical point of view. And you have several examples of what you did in your past. You say you punched a classmate in the forehead while holding a metal lock in your hand. His name was Jerry. You almost hit your mom with a hammer over a pair of pants, I believe, that you didn't like. You threw a rock at a neighborhood kid, you say, breaking his glasses, smashing his nose. Then in the most violent episode, you say that when you were 14, you almost killed your friend Bob with a camping knife. You tried to stab him in the stomach for changing the radio station. Now, as you know, CNN has been trying to find people who were involved in these incidents or witnessed these. They've tried to find Jerry.
And tell me what makes you think that you're going to find those specific people. Tell me how your methodology works, because I don't understand it.
Okay.
How you go and talk to people primarily who knew me in high school, who don't know anything about, for instance, the lock situation that occurred at Wilson Junior High School. I don't understand how talking to people who knew me, particularly after the time that I had become a much more calm person, how does that corroborate the story that I'm lying about this?
Yeah,
I want to know what the methodology is there.
Oh, okay. I'm happy to explain what Maeve Rustin has explained to us. She and another reporter went back and did talk to your elementary school friends as well as your junior high school friends. I believe it's all laid out actually on CNN.com.
I saw your article. I didn't see any elementary school friends there.
They say
this is a bunch of lies. This is what it is. It's a bunch of lies attempting, you know, to say that I'm lying about my history. I think it's pathetic. And basically what the media does is they try to get you distracted with all of this stuff so that you don't talk about the things that are important, because we have so many important things. And, you know, I'm not proud of the fact that I had these rage episodes, but I am proud of the fact that I was able to get over them.
Look, of course.
And my message has been that you can escape from that kind of anger.
Yes,
and,
people are
you know,
resonating with that
Some of the
message.
victims were members of my family. I understand that. I will not let them be victimized again by the media. And if you choose to believe that I'm incapable of these acts, I guess that's kind of a compliment to me. That's good.
Look, people are believe that it's fascinating to hear about your story of transformation, how you went from an angry young man to the soft-spoken doctor, renowned surgeon that we see today. But what's interesting is that our reporter did go to your campaign to ask, can we talk to these people? And your campaign wasn't willing to make them available. This is the seminal story of your youth, of how you. Why not? Why can't we talk to them?
Why would they victimize these people by exposing them to you?
How is it victimizing them by saying, tell us more about this story? We're interested.
The story is well documented. If you choose not to believe it, if it doesn't fit the narrative that you want, that's fine, okay? Let's let the American people decide.
But Dr. Carson, your story has changed. For instance, first you say that Bob was your close friend who you almost killed. And then yesterday you said, well, actually, his name wasn't Bob. I changed the names. And that's fine. People do that all the time, Dr. Carson, in their memoirs.
I changed names throughout all the books,
yes,
even of patients, because unless I have specific permission from them to use their names, that's an inappropriate thing to do.
Of course. And people change the names in their memoirs all the time, but they note that. They note that at the beginning if they say that fictitious names are going to be used. But nevertheless, then you changed it to say that he was not actually your close friend. He was a family member. So
he was a family member. Okay. And, I really don't want to expose him further. Talk to him. He would prefer to stay out of the media. And I think I want to respect that. What I really want to do is help people, American people, although they seem to understand it a lot already, that one of the tactics that is used by you guys in the media, particularly when someone is doing very well, is let's find a way to get them distracted and get all the people distracted so that we can get away from the real issues. And I'm simply not going to allow that to occur.
Look, Dr. Carson, I know you call this tactics. It's called vetting in politics. You know it well, just from the short time that you've been involved in vetting campaigns.
Is that what was done with the current president? Is that what you guys did with him?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
No, you did not.
President Obama's autobiography, Dreams of My Father, was also vetted. You will recall, Dr. Carson.
Give me a break.
Dr. Carson,
are you kidding me?
Don't you remember that there was a whole question about his girlfriend and that people went back to try to find the president's girlfriend, and it turned out that she may have been a composite character, and that was revealed, and the president had to talk about that.
Did with the President Obama doesn't even come close. Doesn't even come close to what you guys are trying to do in my case. And you're going to just keep going back, trying to find, he said this 12 years ago. He said, it is just garbage. We have too many things that are important to deal with.
Look, Dr. Carson, it speaks to, obviously, it's an interesting story, and it is the seminal story of your youth, which is why people are interested. But mostly, it is about vetting, and it is trying to find out if candidates are fact-based and if they can be trusted and if they're telling the truth.
So you've done your job, okay? Kudos. So let's move on.
But last, does Bob exist? Is Bob a real person?
That's not the real name, but yes, he's a very real person.
And
I talked to him yesterday.
And so wouldn't it be interesting to hear his version of, or how he felt during this event?
It would be if he wanted to expose himself and any of the other people. The person who was hit in the forehead with the lock, the person whose glasses were broken. Hopefully your story has gotten out there and they can hear it. If they want to expose themselves, they're perfectly welcome to do it. But I will not be the source of victimizing them.
Okay, so you don't believe that we will be able to find any of the people who witnessed or were involved in the events?
They may come forward on their own. We'll see.
Okay. Let's talk about the issues that you are likely to confront in the presidency. The ongoing wars in the Middle East, for instance. What would you do about what's going on in Syria?
Well, first of all, recognize that Syria is an extraordinarily complex place. We've got the Russians in there. You've got the Chinese in there. You've got multiple different factions in there. And, you've got ISIS in there, and they're fighting against the Free Syrian rebels. They're fighting against the Arab Sunni moderates, the Iraqi Syri forces. They're fighting against Israel. And we ought to take note of the fact that they're fighting so many different factions, decide how we can work in a way that is disadvantaged to them, knowing that they're fighting all of these different factions. That's the kind of strategy that we need. But we also need to recognize that it's not just Syria. We have to realize that we're dealing with a global jihad movement. ISIS is an important part of that. And the whole idea of a caliphate is very, very important to them, particularly in terms of their recruiting efforts.
Yeah.
Therefore, we need to make them look like losers and not like winners. So we need to be looking at strategies for disassembling the caliphate that they have already established,
right,
with half of Iraq,
and
a third of Syria, with footholds in Somalia, in Nigeria, in Tunisia.
And how would you do that, Dr. Carson? I mean, how would you get around containing them?
Well, we need to use every resource available to us, including our financial resources. We need to try to strangulate them in terms of oil resources. For instance, you look at all the oil outside of Anbar in Iraq. You know, those areas are controlled by ISIS right now. We don't have to allow them to continue to control those areas. And it may require that we use some of our own forces. But one of the things that I think is unrealistic is for us to sit there and say, we need to have a coalition of the people in that area. And
why is that unrealistic?
Will be able to control them, but that will never happen unless that coalition has a leader. You can't sit there and call for a coalition and then sit on your butt and smoke a cigar.
What about, Dr. Carson, the refugee crisis? What should the U.S. be doing about the people who have had to flee their homes from Syria?
Well, recognize that a large number of them have congregated on the Turkey-Syrian border, where there are a lot of hostilities going on. I would start a no-fly zone there, and I would enforce it. I would make sure that everybody knew that it was happening, so as to avoid accidents. But that also helps to separate, the forces, which is much less likely to create an international incident.
Should the U.S. open their doors to more of these refugees?
No. We already have tens of millions of people here who are suffering economically. Why would we bring more, particularly bring in people who could easily be infiltrated with members of global jihad? That would be a silly thing to do.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons...
I think instead we should use some of our resources and some of our expertise to help them get resettled in that area. But the real goal would be to help to moderate what's going on in Syria so they can stay in their own country. Half of this population has been displaced.
I mean, one of the reasons is because, obviously there are the debate in Europe about how many to take in, and they desperately need shelter at the moment. And, I don't have to tell you, of course, that the Bible says, welcome the stranger. It's Matthew 24:41 that says, we cannot say to those in need, you are not our problem.
Yeah, but the Bible also talks about being wise. You don't just do stupid things. That would be a stupid thing, to bring in a bunch of people from an area where they would be stupid. The jihadists would be stupid if they didn't infiltrate those people with the kind of people they want to get in here to accomplish their goals.
Mm-hmm. I want to move on and ask you about a videotape of you from last year that has just surfaced. It's been uncovered by the magazine Mother Jones, and it's you giving a speech at the Nixon Presidential Library in which you talk about liberals trying to take over the country. And you talk about your impression of some Americans. So let me play a little clip of that.
They underestimated the intelligence of the American people. The people are not as stupid as they think they are. Many of them are stupid, but okay. But I'm talking about overall.
So that was obviously a punchline. That got a big joke. But who were you referring to? Which Americans do you think are stupid?
The people, particularly a lot of the people who don't realize what they're doing. For instance, those people who take the disadvantaged people in our country and they say, you poor little thing, I'm going to give you everything that you possibly need. Not recognizing that what that is really doing is keeping those people in a dependent position. That's not helping those people. And all you have to do is look at what's happened since, the Great Society programs of Lyndon Johnson. We've spent $19 trillion. And we have 10 times more people on food stamps, more people in poverty, more broken homes, out-of-wedlock births, crime, incarceration. Now, everything is not only worse, it's much worse. You have to be kind of stupid to look at that and not realize that that's a failure and to say, we just didn't do enough of it. That's what I call stupid.
So just to be clear, people who support food stamps, or Medicaid or
I
welfare.
didn't say that. Now you're trying to put words in my
No,
mouth.
I'm trying to clarify.
Why do you do that?
I want
Why
to
not?
clarify,
Just listen to what I just
Carson,
told you.
because I think what you're saying are liberals. I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is that
I can't
liberals.
believe that you used to work on Fox and you've turned into that. I don't believe it.
I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Carson, because you also said something about Fox News that I'd like to play from that very same speech. Let's play that clip about your thoughts on Fox News.
Even if all the media tries to shut you down, which they have tried very much to do with me, but they can't, because the good Lord has provided me with mechanisms like my syndicated column and like Fox News. We'd be Cuba if there were no Fox News.
Now, as you point out, I did work at Fox for many years, and I do have many friends there still who are excellent journalists, but I'm not sure that even they think that without their reporting that we would be Cuba. You mean that if Fox News didn't exist, we would be a communist country?
No. Again, there you go with sensationalism. That's what you try to do. And you hope that somehow that will resonate with people who don't think for themselves.
Dr. Carson, you said it. I'm actually
people are a
quoting
lot
you.
smarter than you think they are. They're a lot smarter, and they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Dr. Carson, I'm actually quoting, I'm not even quoting you, I'm playing your words. You are the person who said that there are a lot of people who are stupid and that without Fox News we would be Cuba.
Are you honestly telling me that you didn't know what I was talking about when I said that? Are you honestly telling me that? Because if you are, you might fit in that category.
Dr. Carson, I really don't know what you're talking about. Fox News came to dominance in 2001. You think before 2001 the U.S. was a communist country?
That's not what I said, but that's what you guys love to do. Why do you do that?
Dr.
What
Carson,
I'm saying, listen, let me explain it to you.
Please.
What I am saying is that the general mainstream media all seems to move in the secular progressive direction. And, you know, they would like to create a narrative that certain things are good and certain things are bad according to the way that they see them. And by being able to be the bully pulpit, so to speak, and to be the only voice that's out there, you can get a lot of people to start thinking the way that you do. Now, along comes Fox News and presents an alternative, a different way of thinking. And if we didn't have that counterbalance, I wish we didn't need that counterbalance, because the way it's supposed to work is that the media is supposed to be neutral and they're supposed to be on the side of the people, and that is the reason that they are the only business that is protected by the United States Constitution. But because they have become very partisan and very ideological, you need to have a counterbalance, and that's what I mean, having Fox come in to counterbalance what you've done. Some others have come in and joined since that time, and it's good that they have, but it's unfortunate that that has to happen.